Hey everyone, Matron here, bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary, this time another game featuring Vile Spanishiwa as we continue on our journey of Vile Spanishiwa week. Moving on from the ZVT matchup, now we're going to be bringing you ZVP, or few games in a row, as we have Spanishiwa, our hero, spawning as the Red Zerg in the northeast corner of Xel'naga Caverns, and his opponent will be vVvTime, spawning as the Blue Protoss in the southwest corner. So you see both players pretty friendly. This is a ladder match, and I imagine that players of this caliber face each other quite often, so they get to know each other, perhaps go back and forth a little bit at the start here. But I'll be interested to see what Spanishiwa does a little bit differently in this matchup compared to Terran. You know, in Terran, he likes to get out those early spine crawlers and queens and really defend in the early going until he gets tier 2. Then he wrestles back map control with infestors and upgraded lings, eventually taking up to ultras, sometimes broodlords, but the pushes that can come out of Protoss are a lot different than those that can come out of Terran. I'm not really sure that spine crawlers are going to stand up against a 4-gate as well as they do against those marine pushes, just because the marines attack so quickly. The spine crawlers have a lot of armor. Marines don't do bonus damage to armored. It looks like vVvTime getting down a pylon here. So I'll be interested to see what sort of early pushes Spanishiwa is able to defend against. And Protoss has a lot of different openings. They don't have to be aggressive like Zerg at the very start. They can actually macro up, and it looks like Time's going to be doing just that. He's got a forge down, and Spanishiwa does scout this. And it looks like not really in danger of being cannon rushed in the main, but you've definitely got to watch the ramp. At this point, Blizzard's patched it, so it takes 3 pylons to wall in that ramp, but it's always an option you have to be on the lookout for. Looks like this drone scouting back and forth, making sure no pylons do go down. It looks like Spanishiwa doing a nice job blocking this nexus here. So he wants to make sure that Time has to actually, oh my, it looks like he made an extractor there for a moment to get a little bit of creep down, and now he's placed an evolution chamber to actually block this fast expansion for Time. So instead of being able to go for a forge and then immediately expanding there, a lot of Protoss want to get that nexus down before the first cannon comes out, even before the gateway. Time's not going to be able to take this down with just probes, as the evolution chamber does have that 1 armor. It's got a lot of health, even though it does lose it pretty slowly off of creep. And it looks like Time's going to try to focus it down. He's got 1 cannon coming up, and this is going to delay the nexus of Time for so long. Spanishiwa does have his hatchery about halfway up. He's got his spawning pool already finished here, so a little bit of a different build order for him, because he had to invest those minerals in not only canceling that hatchery, but in getting this evolution chamber up as well. But it looks like he's going to be successfully delaying this expansion for a long time, and out come the broodlings. They may actually get this probe with those. So the broodlings do a decent amount of damage, but it looks like Time able to take that down, and finally does get down the nexus, but at this point it's at the 4:30 minute mark, so that's a pretty late nexus. If you're going for a fast expand here, he's got the gateway and the cybernetics core going down as well. If we check the income counting station, it is 24 probes to 19 drones, so Spanishiwa a little bit behind, and again, that did cost him minerals. Cost him about 75 minerals to cancel that hatchery, and then it also cost him the minerals to place the cybernetics or the evolution chamber as well. So he's going to be a little bit behind, maybe going to be light in the queen count at the start, as he just has the 1 queen, typically has 2 queens at this point, perhaps the 3rd and 4th coming as well, but still we see he's not opening with any sort of gas, and now running in here with a few lings, making sure he's scouting all over the place, making sure that Time's not getting up any sort of triple expansion craziness. And it looks like a Stargate's going to be here, so Spanishiwa is going to see this quick Stargate. He's going to be able to react accordingly. Time's got both gas working in the main. He's got a 3rd gas about to come up in the natural, laying down another photon cannon to make sure that any ling run by is going to have cannons to deal with in the mineral line here. And Spanishiwa is saying, I see that Stargate, and I hate Stargates, but I imagine he's just going to get out his usual extra few queens here. Should be relatively safe at the start from any sort of Phoenix or Void Ray play. And the Stargate's a little bit delayed here just because Time went for this expansion. He's gotten down cannons, so he's not going to be able to pump out of here as quickly as you would if you were going for a 1-base Stargate play. So Spanishiwa knows that he does have time. He's getting up a lair, so a relatively fast lair here. He did place down all 4 gas at once, and with the first 100 gas, he wants to get that lair tech. And he's actually been going for infestors in this matchup as well. And most players, they tend to switch up their build order and the units they like to use depending on the matchup, but Spanishiwa pretty much sticking to upgraded Lings, Infestors, and then eventually teching up to Ultralisks in almost every single matchup, even ZVZ. So it looks like a few more gateways being added for time. He is side blocked at the moment, the pylon just coming up now, and he's coming out with a Void Ray first and then a Phoenix. Not really sure I agree with that. I like to get out the Phoenix a little bit earlier so that it can start banking that energy. But the Void Ray is also going to be taking down the Overlords just a little bit faster than the single Phoenix. And it looks like this Overlord of Spanishiwa is going to see the extra 2 gateways going down. And at this point, if we check the production tab, oh, it looks like it missed a little bit of action here with a few Zealots coming in. They're going to try to focus down a Queen. They're actually able to do so at the same time as Spanishiwa was a little bit side blocked there as an Overlord went down in the main of Time. But Time, if he was able to micro this, could have taken down an extra Queen, but he was unable to do so. Double Evolution Chambers going up by Spanishiwa, and we'll see he's got a bunch of Lings as well as a few Spore Crawlers on the way, so he's going to be protecting these mineral lines. And at this point, I feel like the investment in that Stargate might be a little bit wasted for Time, as he's already been scouted, he's already given away the fact that he's got a lot of units here, and with that Void Ray, he didn't make his way over into the base of Spanishiwa. Instead, he cleared out that Overlord. That's something you probably could have done a little bit later in the game. Instead, the Spore Crawlers are now down, and Time moving in here with the Phoenix, not going to be able to do much damage. In fact, it gets quite low as the Spore Crawlers and the Queens taking pot shots at it. If we check the unit counting station, it is 1 Void Ray and 3 Phoenix, and look how light Time is in the army counting station. He's got a very small army, but compared to Spanishiwa, it's actually pretty large. Spanishiwa just droning up at this point. Both players playing a macro and tech-oriented game, 45 harvesters to 45 drones, and it looks like Spanishiwa will be getting up that tier 2, that infestation pit. So the infestor is going to allow him to get fungal growths down on those clumps of Phoenix and take them down quickly with groups of Queens. The fungals do a decent amount of damage, as well as the Phoenix don't have very much HP. And it looks like Spanishiwa going to be looking to expand here. And this is kind of late for him to be getting a third. Typically he likes to go pretty fast, especially with his opponent getting that fast natural. I'm really surprised that he is not getting the third at this point, but it looks like he's going to try to take map control with these Zerglings and take down the gold there and get that as his third. And Time just being annoying here, taking down a number of Overlords. It looks like Spanishiwa thought that those were actually hallucinations, but they are real viable Phoenix. And there's 1 Void Ray out here, kind of like a shark, like a boss, able to cruise around the center of this map and do as much damage as it's able to find units. We see a little bit of a run by here for Spanishiwa. He does have speed as finished. So again, not much of an army for Time. He might be able to do a little bit of damage with these Lings. We see in the northern position, Time doing his best to continue to scout with these Phoenix, allowing some of the energy to group or to gain on this Phoenix. It looks like Time may be losing a few sentries there, actually losing all of his sentries, so that was a pretty big blow to Time. As he had those sentries since the start of the game, they were getting a lot of extra mana, so they would have been able to throw down a number of force fields in any sort of battle. Spanishiwa did try to do a run by near the probes here. He could have put down some force fields, and they would have been subject to those photon cannon blasts, but instead losing all of those sentries could be pretty big if the 2 forces do meet here. And Spanishiwa getting out his own powerful spellcasters now. He's got a number of infestors, 5 on the field at the moment. They are gaining energy, and he's just replacing some of those Lings. And it looks like upgrade-wise, he is working on 2/2 upgrades. So those Lings are going to be pretty hardy against most gateway units. The Zealots can still rip them up pretty well, and Time does have 2 attack upgrades for those Zealots. They will be 2-shotting those Lings. So you definitely want to stay ahead of your Zerg opponent in the upgrades, and it looks like now adding on a ground armor level 1 upgrade as well. And if we look at Time's tech, he's got a Twilight Council, he's got a robotics facility, and it looks like he's just now getting a Dark Shrine and missing a little bit of action here. Once again, looks like Spanishiwa was able to get a nice batch of fungals on these Phoenix, moving these Queens down into position and cleaning up all those Phoenix. That is huge because that means that Spanishiwa now has firm map control. He can leave his base with those infestors. He can have the Queens separated. They don't have to be bunched together and be taken down by those Phoenix. So, and it's going to be quite a bit of an investment time-wise on the Stargate there to build up that Phoenix force. 5 Phoenix, even though the reduced time on Phoenix in one of the latest patches takes quite a while to make, and it looks like time's going to be replacing those Phoenix. We see Dark Templar moving into position here, but these Infestors, oh wow, Infestors 2-shot by the Dark Templars, doing 55 damage and clearing a lot of creep with the Observer. Down in the south, it looks like Spanishiwa doing his best to get a surround on Time's army at this point, able to focus down that Immortal very quickly. And now if we check the income counting station, 61 Harvesters for Time. I wonder how much damage Spanishiwa is able to do with this run by able to take down the Photon Cannon in the mineral line there. And now just focusing down the ground, the gateway units of Time, and Time doesn't have much army at all. He's got these Phoenix, they're not too good against Zerglings, and he's got this one Photon Cannon. It's not able to get a good surround with those Zerglings, getting nice fungals on these DTs, quickly decloaking them so that the Zerglings can get a surround and take those down. And now we see more and more Zerglings pouring in here, and this could be huge damage against Time. He has retreated with a lot of his Harvesters into the main, so he's not losing too many Harvesters at this point, but shutting down mining completely, taking down a lot of important infrastructure, and dumping a lot of minerals into these gateway units, which are just quickly taken down by the Lings of Spanishiwa. It looks like Spanishiwa also harassing this third of Time, able to clean up a lot of the probes that were sent over there. And now Spanishiwa perhaps pulling back. He's pulling back with these Infestors. Time does have the gaggle of Phoenix there once again, perhaps going to be doing a little bit of damage, a counterattack, but at this point he's got no ground forces besides these Immortals and the Zealots. So moving in here with these Phoenix, going to be picking up that Queen, but the Queen does have 3 armor at this point. So the Phoenix, with the way they attack, with 2 attacks, not going to be doing too much damage to that Queen, may actually survive that first pickup. And now once again a run by with these Zerglings, trying to do a little bit of stop micro there to take down those probes, but it looks like he'll be making his way into the main, and once again checking out the probe count down to now 55 probes, and once again trying to stop and cause the Zerglings to continue to attack probes. Wasn't too successful there. And now he might be doing some more infrastructure damage as these Zerglings just free to run by and work into the main. He's got another pack here. He's got Infestors down here in case there's a transfer of probes. And it looks like taking down just pylons here and being really annoying. Another Observer makes its way over here, and the Phoenix not being very active in the third of Spanishiwa. He's not actually saturated that at this point. Now it looks like Time moving in here with a pack of Zealots and a few Immortals to try to take down these remaining few Zerglings. A few Zerglings actually burrowed up there, so they're going to be able to unburrow at any point and continue the harassment later on in the game. Really distract Time, so I like the play by Spanishiwa here. He's attacking on multiple fronts, perhaps getting a nice fungal there on a number of probes. So a lot of probes going down there to those fungals, and again using these Infestors and these Speedlings. They're very low mineral and gas costs. The Speedlings are just so cheap. The Infestors, they can be very effective with just a few Infestors there, not very heavy on the gas. Now once again making his way into the mineral lines and causing his opponent to have to spend a lot of minerals on both probes and cannons. The macro Spanishiwa falling a little bit here. He's only got 50 Harvesters on 3 bases, but again doing his best to constantly harass his Protoss opponent. At this point, Time does have the 2-1 upgrades on the Zealots, so those are Zergling killing machines. They do not have charge at this point, so they're still a little bit slow. Charge is on the way. So once charge comes out, they're going to be able to do a much better job against those Speedlings. Spanishiwa using the fact that he's very mobile with the burrowed Infestors and the Speedlings to do a lot of initial harassment. He's still got burrowed Infestors here, enough for 2 fungal growths if there's enough of a concentration on probes to warrant it. But in comes the Observer. It looks like the Infestors might go down here. Spanishiwa finally noticing and might get a fungal to save this Infestor. Get a fungal, yeah, he finally gets a fungal, so if he burrows and gets out of there with that Infestor, he could save it. And we've seen the Ultralisk now on the field, and it looks like 4 of them here, along with a number of Infestors coming out as well. So I really like, oh wow, Dark Templar coming in here into the main, and he's not taking down his rocks. So unless he gets a fungal and a surround with Lings and an Ultra here, and it's going to be really slow to react, this hatchery might actually go down. In comes the Overseer. And the Overseer going to be quickly focused down by these Phoenix, but not before he is able to reveal the Dark Templar there, and 12 HP left on this hatchery. So one more shot by a Dark Templar would have taken that down. And I'm a little concerned at two things right now. Spanishiwa's macro, he's on his third, but he's not well saturated. He should have been on a fourth, maybe even a fifth at this point. And also his creep spread. He's got no creep spread. It's going to be very difficult for him to move out with these queens. If any sort of void rays come out, they could quickly focus down the ultralisks. So he needs to bring these queens on the offensive, get some nice transfuses, and they're going to be so slow off this creep. Also, he'd be much faster with the speedlings on creep as well. Really like to see creep spread all the way down here at this point. It looks like time equaling the Zerg player in bases, 3 bases apiece. So we'll see what Spanishiwa's next move is. It looks like he's coming out with a lot of overlords, and he's up to 114 of 190. Really needs to start macroing up here, coming out with 6 ultras, so that could be what he needs, dumping a lot of minerals and gas into those. And in come the Phoenix, once again being annoying, might actually be able to focus down this Infestor, as it is just out in the open, naked, without any sort of support by these queens. And the queen's moving out once again, going to try to focus down the Phoenix, but again, no creep spread. These Zerglings unburrowing, just going to start being annoying here. It's going to take a while to take down the warp gates, and we do see that the Zealots are being warped in here. At the same time, it looks like time going to be establishing a fourth, much faster than the Zerg is, in fact. So he's got photon cannons and a gateway here, adding to the protection of that fourth, and if that gets up and running, really fearful for Spanishiwa. He's at 158 of 139, but I feel like his army might not be able to beat the army of time at this point. If we check the unit counting station, time does have these 6 Immortals. He's got Dark Templar, and he's got Zealots, which are actually pretty decent against the Ultralisks, as they do bonus damage against armored, against those Stalker-heavy armies. But this is a pretty good reaction by time, using Immortals, Dark Templar, and Zealots to try to take down the Ultralisk army, as we see a big encounter here. Needs to get some money fungal growth down on this army, but instead it looks like the Ultralisk is going to be quickly focused down. The Zergling's not able to get a good surround on those Zealots, so the Zealots taking the Zerglings on just a few at a time, more Zealots coming in from behind, and these Immortals just being bosses, doing huge amounts of damage to those armored Ultralisks. Now these Queens being caught a little bit in the center field here. If he loses those, that's a lot of transfuses which could be used on Ultralisks. Spanishiwa complaining a little bit, might have been texting during that encounter. He's got another batch of Ultralisks coming out, but again, really fearful of this Zealot, DT, and Immortal mix. Not really something we see often, totally sacrificing any sort of anti-air. But Spanishiwa not really known for his airplay. It never goes Mutas, hardly ever goes Broodlords unless the situation calls for it. I'm not even sure he's got a Spire. It looks like it's coming up just now, but this might be too late to counter as all these drones go down. Spanishiwa does not have this gold up, now do long distance mining, and pushing out here with these Immortals. They've regened all these shields. If they're able to stay in the front here and tank a lot of damage from the Ultralisks, those shields do not go down quickly. If he's able to focus down these Ultralisks, in come the Banelings though, as Spanishiwa added those to the mix, but the Banelings not going to do too much damage against the Immortals, only doing the 10 damage to those shields. So he really needs to hit the those Zealots with the Banelings, but it looks like all the Zealots have gone down, leaving those Immortals, and Spanishiwa having to get the GG. Wow, so Spanishiwa dropping this one, and I guess he does drop games. He's got about a 60%, close to 65% win percentage on the ladder, so loses about 1 out of 3, and this is going to be one of those losses. At the very start, I really like the fact that he did that canceled hatch and the evolution chamber block. That's something quite creative for a Zerg player to do, especially when your Protoss opponent has really sold out, made that forge on the low ground, put his pylon down there. You do not want him to go Nexus first, or Forge Nexus. You really want to force him to go Gateway and put down a cannon and really start getting gas and stuff before he's able to get that Nexus. So I feel like Spanishiwa could have expanded perhaps a third time very quickly there. Instead, he teched up a little bit, and he really invested a lot into that harassment in the mid game. He did a little bit of damage. He was able to take down the Gateway forces, the ground army of time, a number of times there. But he wasn't really able to take down a lot of probes. Time was always able to keep even with Spanishiwa. Spanishiwa's macro fell a little bit at the mid and end game points here. He was floating a lot of minerals, and then at the end, Time was just able to react very nicely to the army comp of Spanishiwa, adding those Immortals, the DTs, and the Zealots, which are basically perfect to take on the Ling, the Infestor, and the Ultra army, which Spanishiwa really likes. So I'm not sure if Time is a big Spanishiwa fan and knows his style. Obviously, at the start they talked a little bit, so they might have faced each other. But I'll be interested to see how people, again, react to Spanishiwa's unique style. the fact that he does not use certain units, doesn't use roaches, doesn't use hydras, hardly ever uses air, never uses mutas, so you're really able to tailor a build order against him, which could be really good against his endgame build order. You know, if he had hydras and roaches here, they would have torn apart those immortals, the DTs, and the zealots. So be interested to see how Spanishiwa grows as a player, and to examine more ZVP, try to find a few where he wins. Feel bad showing losses in 2 of the first 3 games of Spanishiwa week, as he's a really creative and admirable player to be really pioneering this style. So if you're looking for more Spanishiwa or StarCraft 2 action all week long, check out my channel Matron StarCraft at youtube.com. Thanks for watching this one. Take care.